Hi, my name is Alan Sivakumar, and I'm one of the prevention specialists here at the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Tarrant County. And we are on our second episode of our video podcast series. And so throughout this, the rest of these podcasts, I'm just going to go by Mr. Allen because that's how the kids know me here, and that's how people call me here at work every day. So today, what we are going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about our virtual worlds. Because right now we are isolated from one another, we are social distancing, and we're not touching anybody as well. And so a big way of our connection to this world right now is through the internet, through technology. And that's a big way of how we're going to be able to stay connected to one another. And so this is a very different concept to not be physically with people. And so today I brought in one of my guests, which is another counselor here at the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Tarrant County, Miss Laura Benaja. And she is right here.
Hello.
Hi, Laura.
Hey.
Did I get your name right? Did I get the last name right?
Close enough. Yeah.
Cool. How are you doing?
I am great. Super
Great.
excited about this podcast.
Good. Yeah, me too. So where are you talking from? We're in different areas right now.
Yes, we definitely are.
Yeah.
I'm home. I am at home. Yeah.
Yeah. How are you liking working from home?
I like it a lot, to be honest. It was definitely an adjustment at first, just getting used to, how to work together as a team and, what work was even going to be like. I think, everybody had to really adjust to that. But I feel like as time went on, as a team, we've adapted.
Yeah.
We've gotten better at communicating, things like that. But as far as just getting to, do things at home, spend more time here, not have to drive as much, I have really enjoyed some of those aspects of it.
Yeah, for sure. And so you talked a little bit about this already, but how has your life changed since the COVID-19 pandemic? I think it's been like a month since we've seen each other in physical, next to each other.
Yeah, that's really weird to picture, honestly. It feels like it's been a lifetime, and it also feels like not that long. Well, I mean, things are different like they are for everyone. Just not seeing people in person as much is very different. Whenever I do have to make a trip to the grocery store or something, that's a lot more anxiety ridden than it used to be.
Right.
So things like that, it's still weird, but honestly, like we're going to talk about today, having technology, it's really weird that I haven't seen you in this. I feel like because we've seen each other over video calls and stuff like that. So.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like going to the grocery stores, that's anxiety driven. You want to maintain your distance. You don't want to you can't touch too much stuff because then you're all these things. And so it's just completely abnormal,
Right.
We're kind of expected to function right now.
It's a lot to think about. There's a lot that you're telling yourself, okay, do this, don't do that. Oh, are they getting too close to me? Am I getting too close to them?
Right. Before we get into our topic, just with technology and how it's impacting our worlds and how it's changed and everything, I want us to get to know you and kind of how you became a counselor. So what made you decide that you wanted to become a counselor?
Okay, that's always a fun question. So I did not know I wanted to be a counselor my whole life, but my whole life I have been interested in things like psychology, philosophy, just learning about people and people's stories, what makes people different, why do they think and feel the way they do. So that's always been an interest. So I went to school for psychology, and then towards the end of my undergrad degree was when I was really had a big question mark of, okay, what am I actually going to do with this? And that's when counseling really became clear to me that was an awesome opportunity to like use all of those things that I was interested in, but also be helping people in a really meaningful way. And just getting to connect with people in a really authentic way was really appealing to me.
Awesome. Yeah, and I know that we've talked about this before. I'm very similar to why I wanted to become a counselor, and it was just getting to talk to people and getting to hear their stories, and really figuring out what was the thing that was really hindering them from moving forward, or something that was really a big hiccup in their life. And so I
Right.
think it's just really awesome, like what we get to do, like to be able to open that opportunity for people to be completely vulnerable, be genuine, and just be honest. Whether it's good feelings or bad feelings, or whether they should be doing this or not, like they have that avenue for counseling, and it's just so awesome to be a part of that and to help people with their mental health. What would you say is like your favorite part about being a counselor?
Ooh, my favorite part. Hmm. Um, well, like we've already said, like, making those connections with people. But then I guess my favorite part is kind of like I get a lot of personal joy in my life from really reflecting on the kind of bigger questions of like, what is happiness? What makes me happy? What is a meaningful life? Things like that. And so in counseling, I guess one of my favorite parts is that I get to be part of that process for somebody else and really support them in exploring those questions for themselves. And so when somebody's able to really do that and ask those questions and really grow in like their self-worth and their ability to love, accept themselves and love other people and all of that, that is just such a cool experience for me to have a part in that, but also just to see somebody kind of grow in that way and make that journey from themselves. It's really fun.
Yeah. I liked what you said about like finding like a meaningful life, and how we can have joy just in general.
Yes.
Because I think it looks so different for each person. And that's what's so interesting. Like whenever you meet new people and you talk to people about what that means to them, I think that's been just really interesting, because everyone's story is just a little bit different on that, to where there's not really necessarily one answer to that, but so it could be different for each person, which is what makes our field so unique.
Right.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about our subject here. So we're right now in a point where we're social distancing. We're not touching anybody. We're shelter in place. So that means we're staying in our homes unless we have to go to the grocery store, or for an essential employee, we go to work. But for most part, we're staying in our homes. And so today we're talking about the virtual world. And I think we've been blessed to be here in 2020, because technology has given us an ability to connect with friends, distant relatives. We're also able to research more, gain more information, and there's so much more that technology has given us the ability to do just from our fingertips, just through our cell phones. And so we're also going to be talking about social media, because it is a way we are connecting to one another. A lot of our students here at the Boys and Girls Clubs do have social media, same with our parents. And so it's a big way of connection as well. And so we're going to be talking about that. But we're not going to be endorsing any specific platform to use. That's up to each individual and what they want, how they choose, what they want to choose to use their social media for, and also families to decide what their kids use and the boundaries they have for their kids as well. And so it's mainly just to share what's kind of happening and like to communicate in that way. Is there anything I missed there, Laura? Because I remember us talking about it and you said it in a really great way.
We're just talking about how we wanted to be clear that we're not having this discussion to say, yes, you should use this or that platform, or yes, you should use it in this way, because ultimately that's a really personal decision for each family. And it really is up to parents and guardians and what they want for their child and what their boundaries are. So just we might use different examples and things like that, but we're not saying, yes, you should or shouldn't use this certain app, or giving any permission or guidance. So just a disclaimer in that way. But we're just talking about our observations and kind of what the research might say and just having a discussion about it.
Yeah, and we're definitely not experts. We're still learning.
No, we're not.
Let me ask you something. So what does this mean for our use of technology during this time of social distancing, quarantine, and the shelter in place?
Yes. So you already said a good summary of it, of how we're using it a lot more. But technology was already a big part of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the huge difference is that with this big change, we were really forced to start using it in ways that we hadn't before. And in many ways, it wasn't always our choice. It wasn't our individual choice to start leaning so much more into technology for work, for school, for even things like ordering groceries for some people or seeing the doctor. So like you said, it's amazing that we and that use, but I think in the way that it happened because of a pandemic and because of situations that are scary and fearful, there is also a lot of anxiety around it because it wasn't our choice. We're kind of being forced to adapt whether or not we really wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this was something that parents or even other people had concerns about with technology, where people are being a little too reliant on it. And now we're being asked to kind of be a little bit more reliant on that.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any concerns or anything that you've learned about like anybody being too addicted to technology? And if this is going to like kind of increase that by going through this right now?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question. I think many people can go down a path of an unhealthy relationship with their technology, whether it's some certain social media they're using, being kind of addicted to your Instagram or your Snapchat, or whether it's the people that you're interacting with online and it not being a healthy thing, maybe not being really good friends, or even hopefully not, but getting into like a cyberbullying situation, or just being really isolated.
Mm-hmm.
But all of those things, I don't know. To me, it's always about the individual and
Mm-hmm.
their relationship with other people in their lives and their relationship with how they use their technology. So that's true now, just like it was true before. But us not being able to go see people in person, I think that for some people, it is probably a harder time, and it might be hard to still have a healthy relationship with it since our choices are limited, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and if we were to say go back to like the 90s, our technology isn't as advanced as it is now, but we were able to talk to people whether through the phone or through letter, and so we were still able to connect with people. But now, like our technology is like so advanced to where we can actually see people. Might not, even though we're not physically next to them, we can actually see people and see how they're doing and everything, which is completely different. So something we're going to be talking about a whole lot is connecting with others and how we connect to ourselves through this time. And ultimately, I think because of the situation that we're in, like our screen time is going to be increasing. It's just going to kind of happen. I know that Apple, if you have an iPhone, that's something that they track each week to kind of, because they wanted to encourage people not to be so much on their phones. But screen time is probably going to be increasing because of this, because it's the way that we're going to be getting up-to-date information, how we're going to be connecting with people, how we're going to do school, how we're going to do work now. And also we can just do everyday tasks, kind of like what you talked about, shopping and those kind of things through our phones. And so, so we talked about how we're going to be increasing the use of technology and social media for this time. And I think there are both there's positive and negative things about our use of technology. And so right now, let's start talking about what are the benefits of using the technology during this time.
Yeah. So benefits, I mean, there's a lot of practical benefits. I definitely think if we didn't have so much technology and access, I don't think we would be able to do the quarantine and the social distancing on the level that we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So just the spread of information is positive, and getting, correct information out to everyone of what they actually need to be doing and what's going on, is definitely a pro. Of course, we'll talk later. I mean, it has some costs too, but
Right.
um, the other major pro is just we have the ability to stay connected with pretty much anyone that we want to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as human beings, our social connections is uh, arguably, but pretty much is the number one factor in our happiness is how connected we are, the quality of our relationships. So to the extent that our technology is helping us with that, that's a major benefit.
Yeah. So something interesting that I looked up yesterday, and because this was a lot of adults, like while we were growing up and when technology is increasing and increasing and kids have more access to it, something that parents were really nervous about was people like their kids' social skills declining. And so Douglas
Mhm.
Downey of the Ohio State University did a study on whether increased internet had a negative impact on a kid's social skills. And something that I thought was interesting, because I thought that this was going to go the other way. They actually found that there was no decline in their social skills.
Hmm.
Teachers and parents said during this time, whenever they had increased internet activity, it actually talked about how it was a positive, how kids were actually able to be building and maintaining more of their social networks through the internet. And also it helped enhance like existing friendships and boost their creativity, because they could express themselves in a different way if they do use social media. And also they were able to communicate a little bit more with their friends through the technology as well. With technology, like we're able to access more information than we have before. And so I wanted to ask you, so with the internet, like just giving us up-to-date information on COVID-19 and what could be possibly the next steps and everything, how the internet is affecting our knowledge on what is happening in our world right now. Do you think is it causing people to be more informed, or is it causing people to be more anxious about what's happening?
Ooh, definitely both. I mean, we could do a podcast series of, 20 episodes just on that topic alone. It's so complicated. um, but it definitely is both. It does keep us more informed, but there's a lot of people that it's making more anxious. There's also so much misinformation out there, and um, many people do unfortunately get sucked into news sources that are not accurate, or even the kind of mass panic that might be going on. There might be huge groups of people that are circulating information that is really more fear mongering than it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really complicated, and it comes down to everybody as an individual, and I think within your family and your close community to really take stock of your relationship to it
Mm-hmm.
and to really ask yourself, like, okay, where am I getting my information? Is it valid information? How would I know? And making sure you're asking reliable sources and people that you would respect to maybe check in and see if you are getting good information or not.
Mm-hmm.
And also just checking in with yourself to just answer that question for yourself personally. Like, has my anxiety flown off the charts since all this happened?
Mm-hmm.
Um, what could I do about it? Maybe I am checking the news too much, or um, thinking negatively too much, or even talking with people who are being negative too much. Maybe I need to set some boundaries. So yeah, everybody's going to be a little different when it comes to how the flood of information is affecting them.
Yeah, and I agree with you with what you said. I think something that's really important is like where are we getting the information from? We want to get it from reputable sources. Like anything from the CDC is something that we can trust. Anything that Dr. Fauci says is something that we can trust as well. And so I think it is really depends on where are we getting this information from, because social media does give us the ability to like share our thoughts and what our perception of the news, but we want to make sure like we're basing it on where we're getting it from, the validity of that. And I think something that's really been good that I saw that Facebook has its own section for the coronavirus, like for information. So does Google Scholar has articles about it, and same with Twitter as well. They have research. They have a search where you can look up for information on it and you get check marks. So those verified check marks, making sure that they're like, you know, legit people and everything.
Okay.
So I think that's been really positive, like that the social media has been doing a great job. Those sites have been doing a great job of providing quality resources for people to get understanding as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so social media is going to be a big way that we're going to be connecting with people. And before, and it always has been. And so it's been a way that people can build community and connect with others, even people they might not know so well. You have that opportunity to connect with other people through it. So would you say that, do you feel like social media may be one of the best ways that we can feel more connected than isolated right now?
So I think the best way I would put it is that, again, it's up to the individual and the family, and it's really going to depend on your personal preference, and it's going to depend on how you use it. So in preparation for this podcast, kind of interesting, I got on my own social media, and I posed a question to my followers or my friends who
Awesome.
are all people that I would talk to in person. Like the social media platform that I did this on, it was one that I feel comfortable communicating with all the people on there. It's not like strangers or anything. And I posed the question of, hey, I'm doing this, preparing for this podcast on social media during this time. How are you guys using it? And do you think it's helping you feel more connected, less connected? Has it changed? Just what are your thoughts? And it was interesting because people did have very different opinions. Some people were like, yeah, I noticed that other people are posting a lot more, and it made me want to post less and go more off the grid. And some people said it was making them feel more isolated, and so they have been getting off of it and focusing on doing like art projects and just talking to their family and things. But for other people, they were like, oh, it's definitely been good and helping me feel connected. You know, it's been fun to get on and see the memes and you know, different ways that people are coping as a group through their social media. So I think it really just depends on how you use it, and also just knowing yourself and knowing and checking in with yourself and being like, okay, I've been using this a lot and I've been feeling like maybe worse afterwards. So maybe take a break and see how that feels.
Yeah. And I like how you put it, because I think it's going to be different for each person. I think every person, you know, none of us here are perfect people. We all have our insecurities. We all have our faults. And so all of us are going to like react to it or interact or use it just in different ways and feel differently about it. And so, so I guess it's normal that we have varying reactions to it or varying feelings about it. But just because our feelings doesn't mean that's necessarily attached to everybody else as well.
Right.
You know,
Another thing too, sorry, just real quick.
You're good.
But I think a big factor too is people are different in what the quarantine is for them right now, depending on who's in your household, because maybe you live with a bunch of family members, or maybe you live with a significant other and kids or pets or not. and maybe your family lives close and you still see each other or something like that. Whereas for other people, it's not like that at all, and a lot of their social life has been cut off. So I think that's a big difference too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think something that's really unique about social media is you can present yourself in the way that you want to present yourself. And some people are very different on social media than they are in person, and they kind of feel comfortable enough to share those aspects of themselves that they might not do in person. So let's talk about the negative effects that social media can have during this time.
Yeah. So I was trying to do a little, research on this, and the research on social media and potential cons to it is pretty interesting because there's a lot of different findings depending on the study and depending on how they looked at it. So there is several studies that have found associations between higher am- amounts of time of social media use, of being on Facebook or whatever, and negative emotional states like depression and anxiety and things like that. So some of that research, it's kind of scary, and you kind of look at it like, oh, geez, is it that bad? Um, but the thing is, those studies, they're not saying that there's a cause. They're not saying, well, social media caused the depression or depression caused them to use social media. They just saw a relationship that really needs to be explained more.
Mhm.
And some other studies too found that, some people that are depressed, they use social media and it actually helps them feel happier. So, but what I found the most interesting and enlightening was some research that found that relationship between social media and things like depression, um, they found that the kind of mediating factor with that was if people also were feeling a large amount of envy or like jealousy. So and also if you're being passive with how you're using your social media, so you're just looking at pictures, you're just looking, kind of lurking, as
Mhm.
opposed to being active and actually talking to people. So the jealousy thing I thought was really interesting, because it kind of goes into that whole thing most of us have heard about of like the FOMO, of fear of missing out whole phenomenon, of how if you are just sitting on your phone for hours comparing yourself to other people and you are feeling like everyone else is living a better life than you, they're happier, they're
Mhm.
more attractive, they're whatever, that is definitely going to negatively affect you. You're going to end up taking a hit to your happiness and your self-esteem. Whereas if you're not doing that and you're using your social media to, follow accounts that inspire you or accounts that make you want to be creative, and you're posting things that are important to you and passionate about and connecting with friends, then those are all positive things, and you're going to be happier because of it. So again, it just really depends on how you're using it, on um, if it's going to be a positive or a negative influence in your life.
Yeah, for sure. I think I don't really have anything more to add to it because I think what you said was pretty spot on, with just talking about it really just depends on the individual and also how it is that we feel about it. I know for me, like the comparison part was hard for me in certain social medias, and it made me decide earlier this year to limit my social media use because of it. Because I mean, I know that like I think views and likes can be a way that we can validate ourselves. I know that in some ways I kind of struggled with that, and so I had to kind of really make a decision whether or not I wanted to go back on, especially with us social isolating. And I decided for myself, I just thought it was better just not to, because I felt like I was in a better place overall. And so what,
Mhm.
to maybe it might not be the time for me right now. But I think that but kind of like what you talked about, everyone's a little bit different with how they approach it and how they see it and those kind of things. And so I think that's the thing that's really important, because there's no real right or wrong answer, I don't think, because I think it's really going to depend on the individual.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure some people listening to this might, appreciate that you opened up and, were honest about that, how in your own life. And I think that that's what you're describing is like the perfect example of how to handle it in a productive way.
Yeah.
Because first of all, you were mindful about how it was affecting you. You were honest with yourself of like, honestly, I am noticing that, I am comparing myself and it's not making me feel good. And then you had the courage to make a choice to take a step back, for your own health and happiness, even if it's not what everyone else seemed to be doing, or if that maybe felt like being different. So that's awesome. And then also, something else I did want to say too is that you exhibited with this example is being flexible about it. So it's not a thing of like you have to decide, okay, it's good or bad for me, or I'm going to use it in this way. It's something that can be flexible over time as you're reflecting on what do I need today, what do I need this week, but that could change in the future. Maybe in the future you're in a different headspace and
for sure.
you want to use it in a different way. So that's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. So I want to talk about another thing that I've seen a little bit during this time. I think you said this earlier, that we're all experiencing a lot of different feelings, and we're all going through a little bit more uncertainty and going through stress that we've never experienced before. And social media can be an outlet for us to express our thoughts and feelings. We can put ourselves out there, but at the same time, that can also make us a little bit vulnerable to feedback. And so whenever we get, say, like a friend or even some troll tries to shame us for why we're sharing what we're sharing, how do we handle that?
Yeah, that is an awesome question. And I was gonna say, especially for kids out there who, might not have as much experience with bullies or, socially in the world, but honestly, it can be just as hard for adults to handle. It really can, especially when you get people with, we all know by now that phenomenon of, being behind the screen. Sometimes people feel emboldened to be, blunt or to be rude or, quite frankly, even hateful in a way that they wouldn't be brave enough to be in person.
Yeah.
So how to deal with that? Definitely an important question. My kind of little tidbit of advice that, again, it's not like anybody is obligated to take my advice, but if you find yourself in a situation where like, oh my goodness, like what did this person just say? And you're having an emotional reaction. What I try to do is like, okay, first of all, pause, take stock of the situation. You don't have to respond immediately. You can take a minute to think, or, take a day or a week or whatever. And I just think about the fact that we have a lot of choice in that situation. You do not have to engage in somebody else's negative feedback or somebody being a troll. Sorry, who are you waving to?
Oh, Mr. Marcus.
Oh.
Yeah, we're doing a video podcast right now. We'll be done in like 20 minutes. All right.
Shout out to Marcus.
That's what happens when we're doing these kind of things. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's okay. But anyway, that you have a choice in it. And if it's somebody that is important to you, that's close to you in your life, that is giving you negative feedback on your whatever post you made or whatever, it could be worth it to like have a real talk with them about it. Not necessarily commenting back, but be asking, hey, could we talk on the phone for a little bit at some point or something, and just letting them know like, hey, like that was kind of hurtful, but I care about our friendship. Could we talk about that? But if they're just somebody who you really are not even in their circle or anything, like I would just encourage people, don't be afraid to ignore, block. We're under no obligation to put ourselves in a negative emotional environment through our social media, just because other people are trying to be that way.
Yeah, and I agree with you, like, and with all those points. I think that's sometimes a really hard decision to make is to block somebody or to unfriend somebody because, you know, don't want to be mean or maybe we're taking it the wrong way or something like that. But I think you're right. Like, I think you got to really determine whether how it's affecting you and your mental health and whether it's the best thing for you as well. Because sometimes we have to make tough decisions like that and in some, and I know that we don't have a ton of control, but we can in some ways take control of our social media in that way to where we can choose to block people or remove people and just not have that and just not allow it to get to us.
Right. And like you're saying, you don't want to, if you don't want to be mean, or you don't want to just burn bridges
Hmm.
either. But there are intermediate steps, and especially if it's somebody that's more, that actually is in your life, it might be worth, respectfully responding and seeing how that goes, because maybe they'll take the feedback. But
Hmm.
if they don't and it becomes a pattern, then if there's somebody that you care about that relationship, the best idea would be try to and address it in a phone call, in person, something that actually is more meaningful and not just like in a public space, and try to work through it that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, if all else fails though, and you feel like you did your due diligence and you tried to be respectful and make it work, and they're not respecting your boundaries, that's when we have those block buttons and unfollow and things like that.
Yeah, and also reporting. We can report it to, you know, whichever site we're using if it's really extreme as well.
Yeah.
You know. So we're winding down a little bit on our discussion. So we've kind of you've talked about it a lot, but I guess if we can kind of reiterate, um, how can we have a positive relationship with technology and social media during this time?
Yeah. So my my kind of list of pointers would be, um, take stock of how you are using your social media.
Hmm.
It's really just about being mindful, meaning reflecting on how you're using it, aware of how you're using it. Are do you know how much time you're spending on your social media each day? If not, pay attention and start paying attention to how do you feel while you're using it, how do you feel afterwards, and don't be afraid to make changes, and ask yourself too, like, what role do I want this to play in my life? Do I want to use it as a creative outlet? Do I want to use it to connect with my friends?
Hmm.
And being intentional in that way, as opposed to, oh, I'm just bored, so I'm just going to spend an hour on social media, and who knows how it's going to affect my headspace.
Yeah.
When you're intentional about it and you check in with yourself and you're flexible, you're able to have a balanced relationship with it and use it in ways that are meeting your needs as a person, and helping your relationships instead of hurting them or hurting your mental health.
Yeah. So on the flip side, what is it? How would we know if we're having an unhealthy relationship with our with technology and social media during this time?
um yeah, that's kind of just basically the opposite. Again, it takes reflection and some kind of intentional self-awareness.
Mm.
But if you find that you often are in a negative headspace when you're using your social media or afterwards, or you find that you feel that kind of addicted flavor to it, of like checking it very impulsively or obsessively, um, I don't know, that kind of thing. That's all I can think to say. Do you have any maybe tips on that as far as the unhealthy part?
I think that you really, because the thing is this, I think we're not saying that, like, even during this time, that social media should be a replacement for, you know, having quality relationships or like wanting to see people in person. I think that's something we're always going to need. I think that whenever we're allowing it to affect our moods or be able to validate us in a way, I think that because I think that it can go in different ways each and every single day. And so I think kind of like what you talked about, just practicing our awareness, really knowing our feelings going into what we're writing, knowing our feelings into how we're receiving, the information and everything. And I think that's just the most important thing to realize is to be able to kind of have that awareness of yourselves and knowing that this ultimately social media is not a replacement for connecting with people, because you can do it. You can connect with people other ways. You can still call people, text people. You can use other platforms as well to video conference people as well.
Yeah, I really like what you said. That inspired me. Just what you said about it not being a replacement, and that made me think of, yeah, that's right. Like, the healthiest way is like, okay, you can use your social media, it can enrich your life, it can,
Right.
But to know that you are still a whole person outside of your social media, and if everything crashed tomorrow and you didn't have any of your accounts, to have that knowledge that you still are a whole person and you could still have a self-esteem and a self-worth outside of that. I think that's kind of a healthy marker, is like, check in with yourself. Like, if I didn't have this, would I still feel okay? And if the answer is no, then you might want to examine some things.
Yeah. So, like through this time, so I talked a little bit about my social, like kind of how I've been using social media a little bit during this time. Have you made any changes on how you've been using your social media?
Um, so I have not made any big intentional changes. I have been continuing to use it, but something I noticed, definitely just the humor and everything that I can see, the memes and everything about everything that's happening, has been uplifting to me for sure. And I think that since I am seeing people less, and I don't have as much of the things that I'm out in the world doing and interacting with people, I have noticed more motivation to like kind of create my own like funny content, or self-express in that way. And so I've been allowing myself to do that, and I think that it's been more or less a good thing. But like I said, I was already in the habit of having phone dates with friends and things like that. So in that regard, I've kind of just kept doing what I was already doing.
Yeah. So to close out kind of what we're talking about with social media until we get to our game, what are something I want to really do, like usually to close out, I want to share something positive, because I feel like that's something we need right now. We need hope, and we need to reflect on good things that are happening, because I think some people have done some really great things through this time, and they've been able to share that through social media, or it got to the news or anything like that. So are there any favorite social media challenges, any pictures, videos, stories, memes that you've seen during this time that you want to share to people that maybe would help boost their spirits?
Um, I don't know. I'm kind of drawing a blank on anything specific. Do you have something in mind? Do you have an example?
I do. So I think this is going to air after this happens, but John Krasinski, so Office fame, and Jack Ryan from if you have Amazon Prime, he has this YouTube series called Some Good News, and he's done a couple now. And tonight, so today's Friday, he's actually hosting a virtual prom for all the 2020 seniors. So they're going to do their prom virtually, which I think is awesome. I think it's so cool.
Like nationwide?
I think, yeah, throughout the United States. And so
It's so cool.
he said that there's going to be other guests as well. And so I mean, I kind of like how people are like seeing the struggles of somebody, say, missing their prom and graduation, and wanting to be able to create a unique experience to be able to still celebrate those things in the confines that we're in as well.
Yes, that is so cool. Because, like you're saying, I mean, not being able to have your senior year, whether it's high school or college or things that people are missing out on, the graduations, it's definitely a loss. It's definitely a grief
Yeah.
process to that. But yeah, how cool when people can come together and make it special and kind of ultimately maybe kind of bond through it. And, you know, it's going to be really memorable. Is it the prom they had planned? No, but it's definitely going to be an interesting memory. And I think that's really awesome when people can rally together like that and be like, you know what, I didn't choose this situation. It's sad, but let's make it something hilarious and let's make it something to remember regardless.
Would you go to a virtual prom if you were in that position?
Of course.
Yeah, and I think also if you were to go, like, because there'd be so many people on it, like you could kind of just dance however you want and not have to worry about judgment from people or say like anything like that. Like I think it could be a lot of fun.
Yes.
Yeah, I think people are doing some really creative things and using their creativity to try to boost people. And so I really love that. I think that's awesome.
For sure.
So, anyways, before we end, we don't have to, we want to plug in our social media because that's a big way. So right now, we really miss our kids and it's really hard not to be with them during this time. But we also want to be safe and we want to wait till the proper authorities let us know when the best time for us to welcome kids back. And so something we've been doing is we've been doing virtual programming and they can be found on Facebook and YouTube. And so our Facebook name is Boys and Girls Club of Greater Tarrant County. And there's going to be a bunch of videos, some helpful tips from some of our prevention friends. Also some programming that each club has been doing that they can do at home as well. And so please check out our Facebook. That would be a great way to stay connected with us and for us to still connect with you as well. And so you guys get to see us as well, because I know you miss us.
Yes, I want to shout out to, I don't know who's going to be watching this, but if any family or kid, that knows me or Mr. Allen or has seen, as you were just seeing me around, is watching this, we definitely miss all of you. So just shout out to all of you. Can't wait till we can see everybody in person.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're really blessed to be able to work with kids and the ability to be able to get to know them and work with them, and definitely miss it. But yeah, so please check out our social media outlets. So we have a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. And the Facebook and YouTube is if you just search Boys and Girls Club of Greater Tarrant County, you can find our pages easily that way. And then for Instagram and Twitter, I believe we are BGCGTC. And so you can get up-to-date news and content from Instagram as well. All right, so what we are going to do this is something I'm really excited to do, is to be able to share games that people can play at home. And this is something that we can do to pass time, get to know each other. And so, Laura, have you ever seen the game Cash Cab?
I have.
Yeah. And so we are going to play a game of Cash Cab where every question that we're going to answer is going to be worth 25 cents. And if you get enough questions right, you can earn a coffee from me. I'm going to pay for it. From Black Coffee, because we want to support our local businesses, and they're like our next door neighbors. And so that is what is on the line right now.
Oh my goodness, the stakes are high. I'm terrified.
So, and that's the thing is, like, if we're with Cash Cab, like, I think that gives you, like, if you're in New York, it gives you an incentive to use them instead of Uber, because you're not going to get an opportunity to win cash in an Uber or a Lyft. And so I think this really encourages people to kind of take the cab in New York, at least. It'd be really fun to do it, but also really sad if you got kicked out and you had to walk the rest of the way to your destination. All right. So do you know the rules of Cash Cab?
I mean, you just have to answer the questions correctly to keep going, right?
Yes. So you get 3 strikes. So the thing is, you can miss a couple. You just don't earn money on those. And then what happens is so if we end up getting 3 strikes, we're gonna have to end our podcast early, so we're gonna have to spend less time with each other, which is gonna be really sad.
No.
So and so you just keep getting questions right, but you do have 2 lifelines. So because we can't really communicate with the world right now, usually there's a shout out you can do, but because nobody's outside right now, you can't really do that. So I'm going to give you 2 phone calls you can make if you need it.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to start. All right. Name the new streaming service that advertises content from Disney, Marvel, National Geographic, Pixar, and Star Wars brands.
All right, Disney Plus.
Let's see. Yes, it is Disney Plus. That is 25 cents to you. Next. What is the name of the sisters starring in Frozen and Frozen 2?
Elsa and Anna, right?
I think, yes, that is correct. Man, you are really good. Have you seen Frozen 2 yet?
No.
You have Disney Plus?
No.
Oh, they just released it on Disney Plus. All right, question number 3. What is the name of the Netflix documentary miniseries of the name of a zookeeper, Joe Exotic?
Tiger King.
Yes, Tiger King, Murder, Mayhem, and Madness. These questions might be way too easy for you. I might have to change my questions up. Question 4. Who is the governor of Texas?
Mr. Abbott.
First name?
Greg.
Yes. That is correct. 5. What is the name of the dance where the girls ask the guys?
Sadie Hopkins.
Yes, Sadie Hopkins.
I had to play the little song in my head and it's like, na 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 na, Sadie Hopkins dance. Yeah.
Yep.
Or Hawkins. Oh yeah, whatever.
Which city in Louisiana is below sea level? So parts of the city is below sea level. Yes, that is correct. That's why that was such a big devastation when that happened with whenever Katrina happened, because they are suspended by levees and because they failed, and
it's like a basin too, right?
I didn't know that until that happened, really. Question 7. Who is the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and one of the lead members of the White House task force addressing the coronavirus pandemic in the United States?
Alan, I don't know this one.
Well, you can guess or you could call a friend.
Let me phone a friend.
All right. So so Laura's going to call a friend. She needs some help on this one.
I need help. Okay, I'm going to try and call Jacqueline.
All right, so and Jacqueline's going to be our guest next week. So,
oh, wait, she might be at the food service right now.
I don't know. You could try it.
Yeah, I'm going to try.
Yeah.
Jacqueline, oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm on Alan's podcast and we're playing a really high stakes game of Cash Cab. And I needed to phone a friend, and so I called you because I feel like you know things. So here's the question. Are you ready? Okay, so who is the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and one of the lead members of the White House task force addressing the coronavirus pandemic in the U.S.? Fauci. Okay. I'm going to go with Dr. Fauci.
Yes, that's correct. Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Yes, it's correct. Thank you, Jacqueline. All right, solid lifeline use. All right, bye. All
right, man, that was successful. Man, that would have thrown her like that. She didn't know it too. The good thing she knew it. All right, next. What is the name of the virtual assistant AI technology developed by Amazon?
Amazon. Okay, so it's not Siri. Alexa?
Correct. You know, surprisingly, I haven't really talked to Alexa so much during this time. I probably should.
I don't have Alexa.
You don't?
No.
All right, question 9. A gift from France to the United States, the Statue of Liberty was completed in what year?
Oh, man. Dang it. This was on that 30 Rock episode, and
I knew you. I watched it.
Tracy
I was like,
Jordan knew the answer, and I do not remember the answer. I'm just gonna guess because I don't think anybody else would know. Was it like, oh, I don't remember. It's like 1840. No. Oh, it was like 18 something. Or no, was it? No, or was it 17 something? I don't know. No, 1846. I don't know.
close. 1886.
Dang it.
But we got a strike. All right, but that's okay. Question 10. Name the 4 presidents on Mount Rushmore. We're almost to our destination. We've only got 2 more questions after this. 4 presidents on Mount Rushmore.
George Washington. I'm gonna phone a friend again.
All right.
Calling my friend Ruth. She knows some. Ruth. Okay. So I'm glad you answered. So I am on a podcast with a coworker right now, and we're on Cash Cab, and I'm trying to win some a cup of coffee, and I've gotten really far, but I'm stumped. Okay. So name the 4 presidents on Mount Rushmore. Okay, that's the 2 I got. Jefferson, Washington, or that I think. Lincoln, we're going with Lincoln.
Okay.
She's trying to think. She don't know. Who would be somebody else important?
All right.
Just give me a name because we're just going to guess.
5 seconds. 5, 4.
He's counting down.
2, 1.
Jackson. She said Andrew Jackson.
Let's see. Washington, Jefferson, Roosevelt, Lincoln.
Oh, it was Washington, Jefferson, Roosevelt. Yep.
So 2 strikes. We're almost there. We got 2 more questions. And
that stinks. All right. Thanks, Ruth.
Who was credited with inventing and patenting the first ever telephone?
I feel so ignorant, but was it Edison?
Is that your final answer?
Yes, because I don't know.
It was Alexander Graham Bell.
Oh, duh.
Oh man, Laura, I don't want to do this. I think this is the hardest thing about doing a TV show is I don't know how he kicked people out of his cab because I don't want to do this, but I have to. And that's our game of Cash Cab. You get 3 strikes, but you did so good. You almost were there. But that's all right. We're almost done. So these are the 3 questions that I ask people at the very end of our of each podcast. What is the one thing you miss most during this isolation quarantine period?
Getting to go to restaurants and just sit and talk with people in a public place.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal. Next, what is the one thing you have learned through this time?
So I was talking earlier with some friends. I think that this time has been really cool in that as a culture, I feel like we've had this cultural experience of learning that it's okay to be human and to admit that you're struggling or you're feeling lonely or you're feeling overwhelmed. I feel like those are things that overall as a culture, we were really quick to deny and be like, oh no, I'm never unhappy. And I think through this experience, people are learning it's okay to share that even on a public level, kind of collective level. So
I agree. I think this experience has actually been able to get us all to connect to one another in some way because we're all sharing this together. Last question. So what is one thing you look forward to when the CDC says we can meet again, we can, go to stadiums, concerts, whatever? What's the one thing you're looking forward to?
Yeah, that's going to be so weird. I can't even picture it, but I can. Thinking positive. I am looking forward to going to my dance classes again.
Nice.
I was going to some salsa classes and now I can't. So I want to go do that again.
Do they do them online? Can you do it through Zoom?
No, the place I was going to, they haven't been. Some people are, but they haven't been doing that.
Gotcha. Man, well, Laura, do you know what I'm gonna do for you? Even though you didn't win the game, I'm still going to buy you that coffee. For
Oh, Alan.
such a good friend, for doing this podcast, having this conversation, I still will do that for you.
For putting me through the stress.
And just yeah, and also just and you're not doing it for just yourself, but you're doing this to show the kids also, like people can how they can play at home and everything.
Yes.
So it's a learning opportunity for all of us as well.
Right. Telephone, Graham Bell. All right, I got it now.
And your grand bell. All right. Anyways, thank you guys all so much for tuning in and listening to us this week. We've got a new one next week. We're going to be talking about mental health with another one of our counselors, Miss Jacqueline Carmona, and she actually answered one of Laura's questions correctly. And so we're really excited to have her. And thank you, Laura, for being here. And
Yes, thanks for having me. It was an honor to be part of the debut Boys and Girls Club podcast series.
yeah, exactly. Anything you want to say before we sign out?
No, just keep being safe, keep checking in with yourself. Don't put too much pressure, and we're just gonna get through it.
Yeah, great words. Yes. We miss you guys, and man, we can't wait to see you guys again soon. All right. But between then, stay safe and be healthy and be kind to one another. Bye, guys. We'll see you next week.